It's October 2012, and my husband and I are in a cab coming home from the west side of Manhattan. Between us on the seat is our newborn son. And as the cab pulls up outside our building in Brooklyn, we take his car seat out and we ride 8 floors up, where we unbuckle him and lay our firstborn in his crib. And then we slowly back out of the room, closing the door gently behind us. And then we look at each other like this. Second story. I'm standing in front of a closed conference room door, and I'm the director of employee development at a digital agency. In my left hand is a stack of paperwork, and in my right hand is a pen with which to sign it. And in my heart, I know we have spent several months trying to get this employee to do his best work. But unfortunately, those efforts have not come to fruition. And today, I am going to fire someone for the first time. I stand there looking at this closed door, knowing that the person on the other side is going to have a pretty bad day. And I feel things. Last story. This one happened like a year and a half ago. I'm sitting in SFO, the airport, at gate 58B. And while it's not snowing in San Francisco, there's like 10 nor'easters piling on each other in Philly, which is where I'm headed. I teach a workshop called So Now You're a Manager, and this one was being hosted in Philly. And as my red eye gets pushed from 10 to 11 and beyond, I'm getting messages from attendees. Help, I'm stranded in Seattle, or I'm driving up from Virginia and the roads are terrible. Is this thing still on? And I sit there as my flight gets pushed yet again, and I think, is this thing still on? These might sound like 3 very different moments in a person's life, but I can tell you there was a thread underneath all of those moments. In every one of those situations, there was a moment when I kind of wanted to turn around and say, when is a grown-up coming to handle this? And then, of course, there was a moment a few seconds later, a realization that I am the grown-up. And all of the navigating of challenges and responsibilities is in my lap. And that brings us to our title slide, everyone. The grown-ups are not coming. Sorry. It'll be a little more inspirational than that. Don't leave. My name is Dary, and I'm really psyched to be in the back camp world today. I live about 2 miles west of here in West Berkeley, so this was the best speaker commute I have had. Yeah. And I run a company called Plucky. And Plucky is mostly about leadership. So about half my time is spent one-on-one coaching, either leaders who are currently in management roles or those who are emerging into them. And the other half of my time is spent teaching workshops like So Now You're a Manager, or sometimes in-house stuff, and sometimes speaking at conferences like this. I spend many hours every week talking to folks who are processing their identity as leaders and trying to figure out how they should be wielding that responsibility and frankly learning to leap in that role. And this question of when are the grown-ups coming sometimes comes up in a lot of those conversations I have with them. In those 3 anecdotes I just shared, the new baby, the first firing, the event planning fiasco, I think that that question came to mind for me in that grown-up sense, but there are other ways to look at it. And although I could probably stand up here for 2 hours and share you other events in my life that have felt similarly, that is not actually the style of presenter that I am. I am not here to tell you all the things. I want to know you. So I would love to hear from you. What are some moments that you have found where you kind of wanted to turn to a grown-up for help? I'm very patient.
I had this.
Hey, Andrew. Yeah.
Hi. Wow, good. I've had my company for 6 years, and so this year I thought, all the kind of like big shops have sort of some kind of like sales So I hired someone, and I was paying him. I mean, he was like a salesman, so he told me like what his wage should be, and I didn't. And so I thought, okay, well, this is gonna work. This is gonna make me like millions of dollars. So no problem. And then I guess I ran into this like sunk cost scenario where every month that he wasn't bringing in work, I was like, well, if I wait another month, it's going to bring in enough work. And, you know, if I fire him now, I'm really going to just... So I did it for 8 months or whatever, so I'm paying like $6,000 a month, which was a lot for my company of 6 people. So, yeah. So he's gone now, but that was like really expensive. So
it's like breakups. It's always like 4 months too late.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, I should have done this a lot.
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Andrew.
Literally no work came from it, like zero. So that was expensive.
Yeah. Thanks. Who else wants to say a thing?
I have one.
Hi, Ruby. What's up?
One part of my job is to be responsible for the security of my organization, my coworkers and things. I frankly, just in general, have this like low-level terror all the time that something is going to go wrong because they can, you know, I don't know what the threat is going to be, whatever the thing might be. Specifically, I had a coworker who like traveled to China and she had sort of political connections, and I was like, well, please, like I found out about it the day before she went, and I gave her a pile of advice. She took none of it, and I'm just like, I can't protect us, you know. So I'm just always afraid, like it's a lot of responsibility to you know, if something goes wrong, I'm going to feel bad. Like I didn't train people properly, or I didn't set up a system properly, or something like that. Totally.
Who else? Could be outside work too. Yeah, hi.
Yeah, I started
Okay.
riding a motorcycle just a few months back, so I kind of go on the road every day thinking, hey, I control most of the risk that I'm facing, and I have to accept that whatever risks I do choose to take, if something bad happens, that's the choice I make. It's not, I can't really blame it on other people or expect other people to follow the rules of the road or not do stupid things while they're driving. I just have to be prepared for it. And so, I guess I'm grown up in that situation.
Yeah. Do you hope everyone is a grown-up driving around?
You hope for it, but you shouldn't expect it.
Yeah. I feel like we're all better drivers for the next 2 days just because we heard that story. At least with regard to motorcycles. Great. Is there like one more? A great one that you probably think you shouldn't share, but you totally should right now?
On the opposite side of the firing was when being made a team lead as my second employee I've hired is sitting behind me of like, I have to suddenly choose between a bunch of candidates that all seem well qualified. Now I have to pick the one that I'm going to be working with for the foreseeable future. Like, that's now my decision. How do I make that decision?
Yeah, you did pretty bad.
Yeah.
Are you the one that got the promotion?
I got hired.
he got the job. but-
Yeah, you got the job. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those things. I know it can be a little gutsy to do that in a room like this, but I got you here. I'm holding the room. I promise this is a place where you can say certain things and we won't tweet about you. I think all of these are good moments where you may feel like you're in over your head. Certainly what Ruby's talking about, like, oh, is she fine, by the way, in China?
If she was compromised while she was there, I won't know until some shit happens. So
Great.
yeah.
We're all gonna.
So like I said, this is low-level terror all the time.
Totally. So in all these moments, although I think we do feel overwhelmed or underwater, I would like to reframe that for us today. And I actually think in all these stories, there's also an invitation to lead. The motorcycle one is tricky, but I'll work on it. In my stories, I was being invited to lead as a parent, like literally lead a human's life. In the second, the firing was happening, you know, regardless. I was the messenger of that, but I was being invited to lead with dignity and respect. I knew that that sort of conversation could have repercussions far down a person's career path with regard to confidence and imposter syndrome and the whole nine. And I had an opportunity to lead right then the tone of that conversation and how it went. In the third one, I had the sort of invitation to lead with regard to danger and weather. I wasn't sure what the right call was, and I had to balance that also with the responsibility that I was kind of the only one, in some ways, who needed to be there, right? All of the rest of them were amassing on the East Coast, and if I couldn't get there, there was no leader to that thing. I had to balance those invitations myself. And I think through some of your stories, too, certainly with the salesperson that was not bringing anything in, there is a moment, a version of that, where something is calling, saying, yo, this is your moment to lead. Yours too, Tyler, for sure. I think it's how we respond to these invitations to lead that really defines our path. And I mean that at work, and I also kind of mean that at life too. That we can be very shy and hide away from them. That works for a lot of people to some success. But we can also step forward into those moments to lead and figure out, all right, well, I'm just going to try something and do it, right? And today, when I thought about, well, what the heck am I going to speak at a bad camp talk, right? I'm not technical. I cannot give you the benefits of Drupal 8 and 9 and 10. Too soon? Too soon. Okay, great. 8 or 9. I can't share that with you. But when I reflected on sort of what my day-to-day is and what I could bring to this room, I thought, well, maybe I can walk them through leading and gear you up so that as these moments will occur in your life, both in and out of work, you can see them as an opportunity as opposed to something that's sort of overwhelming. So there's 3 steps I'm going to walk you through. I'm pretty ambitious, so we're just going to start with a little thing right here. To no one says. Every day I talk to clients who have a hard time discerning what they want. That is not what their partner wants, or what their mom wanted for them, or what their colleagues want, or what the people on Twitter say, but to really learn to listen to what they want. It is very noisy out there. And so I'm going to walk you through a little experiment of sorts. I'm going to ask you a question in the hopes that you can just hear yourself in a very clear voice. And it's a really simple question. So if you have like a phone or notes in your hand, just put them down for a quick second. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes, or if not, you can just sort of look a couple feet ahead of you on the floor. And I'm going to ask you a really simple question, and I want you to listen for the answer that comes up. What are you hungry for right now? Not metaphorically. It may have been lunch a few hours ago. Maybe you didn't get a coffee. What are you hungry for right now? And if an idea comes to mind, a food or a drink, I wonder how it is presented. Is it on a plate? Is it in your favorite mug? Is it connected to a person, like it's your girlfriend's chicken soup? Or a company, like a Starbucks cake pop, for example? Not like I'm thinking of that. What are you hungry for right now? Okay, come back to me. All right, I'm about to get like Instacart out of my phone and start ordering, so I want to know, what came up for you? What are you hungry for? What do you want? Can I call on you? You look so happy. Hi, Shannon.
I'm really happy in imagining a chocolate croissant.
A chocolate croissant?
Yeah.
Yes. From any specific place or time in your life?
There's Paris baguette, but really only because it's like a lot bigger.
Totally. The convenience. Chocolate croissant. Good one. Yeah, hi.
Water.
Water? Because it's 1,000 degrees in here?
Yeah.
Preach, totally.
And then my water bottle is empty. I thought I could solve it for myself right now.
Yes, there is a water fountain right there. What was your name?
Tori.
Thanks, Tori. What else came up for you?
Cronut.
Cronut?
Yes. Available in New York and I think Paris.
Oh, yes. So good.
Do you have your own?
Farmer's market.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Where is that?
Just at my local farmer's market during North Carolina.
In North Carolina. All right. Home of the cronut. Kristen, hello.
I mean, I can always go for some really good greasy pizza.
Yes. Good. I feel like tonight might be your night. It's possible. Hey. Can I ask you what you're hungry for?
Kiwa's lemon.
Say again?
Kiwa's lemon.
Lemon?
Kiwa's lemon.
Kiva's lemon?
Oh, green.
Green. Got it. So what I love about all those answers is that none of them were the same. And that is a good sign to me that you were already able to avoid peer pressure. Like nobody seems really stressed out about like, all right, what would someone at that camp do? I gotta really be thoughtful about this, and what would be appropriate in this room to say or not. That somehow in yourself you are able to just kind of wonder about that pretty innocuous talk, right? And I think that that's a good, just very simple, dull question, frankly, to get you out of the headspace of bigger decisions and remind yourself what it feels like to know something about you. Oh yeah, this is my answer. And that is good work. And I think that, I don't know, like 70% of strong leadership sometimes feels like you have to have the ability to hear yourself. And that hungry question is a really simple one. So feel free to steal that and use as needed. Good. Step 1, check. Everyone looks very wise so far. Step 2. I really wanted this to be a little punchier because know thyself is so good, but I needed to get the wording right on this to really express what I'm talking about here. The second step is to leverage the right experts. In the first step, it's about yourself, but hey, this is planet Earth. You get to phone a friend, right? You get to interact with other people, members of your community. And the important part in figuring out how to lead in those moments is to know which friend you should call and which friend you should ignore. The group of experts that are in your life may be numerous, but I don't mean the group of experts to be synonymous with your network or your colleagues or your family, although it's possible that members of all those groups might come together as the perfect right people to consult on a given problem or not. I will share a good example with you from my life. Obviously, as I mentioned, I was the director of employee development at an agency in New York, and now I have a whole other job. I run a business called Plucky. And there was a time when I was trying to figure out, should I quit my job and start a business? And it was like a day-to-day question. Some days I was like, dun-dun-dun-dun, I can do it, I'm ready, I will be entrepreneurial. And literally the next day I would be like, I'm a lunatic. That newborn baby I mentioned was 10 months old. I was like, I need stability, 401k, everything, right? And you see what I mean? Day to day, that was a real struggle to figure out what I was going to go forward with. And one of the most important things I did was figure out who not to talk to about that decision. I leveraged a number of entrepreneurs that I knew who had started their own businesses and who I trusted were able to keep their own shit, honestly, out of my decision. People have a hard time with keeping those boundaries separate sometimes. And I talked to my husband a whole lot because that had repercussions on our family. But my parents did not find out until the day after I quit my job. My parents are lovely people, but they are scared for me. And this might be a truth, a long-term truth about parenting. My kids are still little, so I cannot affirm or deny. But there seems to be the nature of parenting to just be sort of cosmically worried for the rest of one's life that either they're about to biff it and end up in the ER or somehow end up back on your couch. And it is not a question of confidence. I think my parents really think that I have good creative ideas and they know I'm pretty plucky, so as it turns out, and can sort of make good choices. But I knew if I invited them into that conversation, they would only be able to hear the fine print, which was like, Jenny, this is a risk. What are you talking about? You have a new baby. Come on. And so it turned out to be very important for me to make that call. Although they have been involved in many other invitations to lead in my life, about where I live and my kids and all those sorts of things. But in that one example, I knew, they are not going to be able to put that aside to really help me through this problem. And it's so important as you end up with actually a lot of decisions. A lot of our examples about leading tend to be like what's the plan, Stan? Right? Like, what are we doing with this sales guy? Like, how am I preparing the girl for China? Am I getting on a bike right now? Right? These sorts of moments. It sometimes hinges on decisions, and you've got to be really smart with who you trust that moment with, because it can really mess things around. The reason I order them in this fashion, first you check with yourself, then you leverage your right experts, is that if you go to them first, all of their opinions will ebb and flow around you and push you around to an extent that it will be really hard to discern what you think in the first place. So do it in that order. Okay. So let's say you know yourself, you like journal nightly, you know your own soul, and let's say that you have figured out the appropriate people to talk to about a specific problem. It is still possible for leadership to go poorly. And that is what happens if you stay paralyzed and you cannot move. You have to act. I think we have established that no one is coming to save us, right? Like, you are the grown-up you have been waiting for. And if you arm yourself with your instincts and also get some details and guidance from the folks who know best around you, the next part is about leaping. And sometimes that leap will actually feel like a baby step of obviousness. And when it does, great. Please act away and leap. But sometimes it will feel like an enormous risk. And I get that. And in order to broach that moment, you have to have confidence that you are actually this grown-up I'm telling you about. It's possible that you have not ever had a coming-of-age ceremony. That like never in your life someone said, ding, okay, now you're done, totally, you're 100% an adult. And maybe you didn't have a bar bat mitzvah or a quinceañera or a sweet 16. But luckily, I wrote you one. Today is your coming of age ceremony, everyone. I have done some research on coming of age ceremonies just for this situation. And I have learned that in a good coming of age ceremony, there's two parts. There's a serious part and there's a party. This is for the party part. I have written us a vow that in a minute, first I will demo, and then I will have you stand and we'll say this vow together. And then to seal it in, we will blow this. That really feels it. It gets it. And then we will successfully leave this particular room as full-fledged grown-ups. So I'm going to demo for you. Okay. Oh, I forgot one important part. I was a Girl Scout for a while until everybody got very catty, so I know this. So this is how we will do our vow. With 3 fingers up. Okay. So I will demo. I, Jen Dary, am now a grown-up. I accept the responsibilities of grown-upness, including making brave decisions, having hard conversations, trying my best, calling on my community, and knowing that I'm totally 100% enough. Great. Please rise. All right. Party favor in one hand. Hands up. I so wish I had a picture of this. I love you all. Okay. I, Jen Dary, am now a grown-up. I accept the responsibilities of grown-upness, including making brave decisions, having hard conversations, trying my best, calling on my community, and knowing that I am totally 100% enough. By the power vested in me from Bad Camp, you are all grown-ups and may be seated. I hope that you will remember this ridiculous moment the next time something challenging comes across your desk or your life at work. I hope that you will remember that you have some brains, that you know some appropriate people who can help you, and that failure and risk is kind of just part of being an adult. And sometimes it'll work, and sometimes it won't. I hope that you are able to be a kid in your heart, but be a grown-up in the boardroom. We need grown-up leaders out there. We needed them like yesterday. So I invite this whole room of grown-up leaders to keep going and leverage those invitations to lead. And shoot me a note and let me know how it goes, because I am very good at responding to random emails when people do great things, and I will emoji you up. So thank you for coming, and now we can do some Q&A. Great. All right, lay it on me. What do you want to ask? What should we talk about? If any. Yes, Joe.
Okay.
Hi, Joe.
So you've asked your parents for advice. Let's assume you didn't do it the right way.
Fair.
You've asked your parents for advice prior to knowing myself. How do you correct that mistake from making them muck up good choices?
Oh, I love it. Here's a really good way to change course on something. Just let a weekend go by. When you wake up on a Monday, it is very easy to say to someone, you know, I was thinking over the weekend. And then you can just say whatever you want. I was thinking over the weekend. I appreciate so much what you shared with me about what you think I should do on that. And I just have this feeling I should go a different way. So I'm going to try that, but I'm going to come back and tell you if you were right, okay? We just need a disruption in that sort of mindset. And I kind of kid, but I also don't. That sometimes you can just wake up and be like, I had this weird dream last night, Mom and Dad. It was a dream that I actually quit my job, and it was so amazing that I kind of felt like I'm going to do it. I know you thought it was a bad idea, but I think I'm going to try it, right? Agreed. Dreams are very floaty. Nobody knows what happens in dreams, right? We totally pretend you had a dream. So it's really just a disruption in what that relationship is and was, and I don't know, you know, this is above my pay grade. We probably need therapists in here for parent issues, but I think to some extent acknowledging, like, I heard what you said, I heard your advice, and I also feel like I should consider this thing, and I totally get it if you're not down, but I'm going to keep going, right? The ability, and again, the grown-up is to say that. And then, at some moment, to realize that a future child or report or other person you work with is totally going to pull the same shit out of you. And you have to be a big enough person that time to be like, well, this was not what I recommend, right? You have to also be able to receive that request. Does that make sense? Yeah. Who else has a thing? Hi.
What if your boss doesn't know how to be an adult?
I wish that I had business cards that was like, I am for your boss, because so many people talk to me. So I have little cards up here if anybody's interested in the manager training stuff I do, but so many people are like, can I just get my boss to come instead of me? Okay, so what was your first name?
Rob.
Hey, Rob. Well, I think a lot of bosses need to be grown-ups. I wish they were all in this room. It would make a lot of my coaching calls faster. But what I sort of feel about any one individual you're having conflict with is that, well, here's how I coach you through it, I guess I'll say. I would ask you to think about another person in your life that you feel the same level of frustration with, and it could have been a long time ago. Like, who reminds you of that person? So I'm not going to do that to you right now, but like, you know, I would have you go back in your life. Was it a teacher? Was it a parent? Was it just a friend? Who is another person that reminds you of this person? And then I would say, what did you do previously with that other person to work it out, right? So it sounds like there's, when you use the word boss, there's some authority going on. So who was the person previously in your life that you kept bumping up against their authority and perhaps ineffectiveness or whatever? What did you do then? What did you try? Maybe you tried quitting. Great, that's an option. Maybe you tried never saying anything and being passive aggressive and going to therapy. That's possible too. There's lots of different avenues you try, right? And I would say, okay, great. So let's just say your boss's name is Sally, and if like one day in the future you're going to meet another Sally. Let's just put that on the table. Her name might not be Sally next time. It might be, I have no idea. Rob is your name. So Jen, it might be Jen next time, right? And I would say, what do you want to try this time with Sally right today that you could leverage the wisdom for next time? Because you're gonna meet another Sally. No matter what you define your template of the person you're having conflict with, you're gonna meet another one. So even if you quit your job tomorrow and never saw this fool again, that person is coming back to you and some other human that you interact with. So it doesn't mean to say that I think you have to starve off quitting or like stay in problematic circumstances, but at the very least you could say, well, what's one more thing I want to learn from this guy? Okay, I'll try this. I'll try conflict. I'll try honesty. I'll try, putting it all on the table. I'll try recommending Jen to go talk to, like whatever, lots of different things, and see how that works. Because I really think life is just this giant science experiment, right? So you meet people, and then you're like, oh, you remind me of my roommate from college. All right, fine, fair enough. Last time I hit my head, this time I will talk to you about my problems. That's life. That's the whole evolution of things. That hopefully by the time we get somewhere in our careers and our lives, we have encountered enough times those personalities that are problematic, and we have found helpful tools and ways to move through that. Does that make sense at all? Great. You can talk to me after if you need some creative ideas. But you are not alone. Literally every time I talk, someone has that question. Anybody else have a thought? Yeah.
I'm thinking about the hard conversations from our pledge.
Yeah.
Which are hard, because they're hard conversations. But on the rare times I actually execute those, I usually feel so good afterward. But so my questions are like, one, how do you get other people, the conversation is not just one person. And the other person has to be ready to have hard conversations too. So like, how do you introduce it or make them feel comfortable having, like say, let's talk about this hard thing that we've been avoiding. Just make them feel better about it.
I mean, I could talk about this for like 3 hours, but my condensed version is that just like with anything, you have to build muscle around it, so you have to practice it. So you can just decide, I'm going to rebrand myself as the person who says hard things. Again, you'd be like, hey, I watched a TED Talk this weekend. TED Talks work really great for that, by the way. People always think you're much wiser after you watch one. So you can just come in like, so I watched this TED Talk this weekend, and I have some feedback for you. And then people are like, okay, what's going on, right? So you can just decide, I'm going to be one of those people who talks about hard stuff. And the first few times, it will be hard, and they might run away or cry in the bathroom. Like I can't guarantee. But at a certain point, you will have built trust with the people around you that know, Ruby's got a thing to talk to me about. But I know that it's coming from a place of wanting this to work better, and I know Ruby's not just like misdirecting her frustration about other things at me. And that clarity is sometimes hard. Like feedback forms are really problematic in my eyes because. I think a lot of times what our feedback says about, a restaurant and an event or whatever, also depends on what else is going on in our lives. I had someone once who gave a very critical performance review to the CEO, and the CEO came to me, and I had never met any of the other people involved, just the CEO. The CEO was like, dude, Jen, any ideas why this would happen? We just gave a lot of time off for this person to consider all this stuff, and now and I felt we were very close and really problematic review. And I said, tell me, what's going on with this person? And he said, well, I don't know, outside of work, I guess the only thing of note is that he's going through a custody battle with his ex-wife. And I said, okay, guess who can't hear feedback? Ex-wives that you're in custody battles with and judges. So all of that frustration, the next person that encountered him was a performance review form about his boss. And I'm not saying that there were no legit comments in there, and there were not grains of that, but the venom and fury with which that came across, I think, may be related to that. And that's why hard conversations are hard, because sometimes it's hard to trust that we're really talking about what we're talking about. And we're not talking about the fact that you're pissed that you didn't get Jamie's job. What's your name, Jamie? Jaime. Jaime. That you didn't get Jaime's job, and that you're taking that out on me, right? There's lots of layers to conversations, and so also maybe being very clear at the beginning of the conversation to say listen, I'm going to call the awkward. I know there have been a lot of layoffs recently, and I know some of your friends have been let go. That is not what this is about. Today I just want to talk about the deadline of Friday. How is that feeling for you? right? And just to start being that person. It's the only way you get to the ability for people to see you as approachable on that level. They might still be intimidated by you, but at least they know when I get feedback from this person, it is always pure feedback. It's not like biased or tainted by other emotions. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other thoughts? Okay. Well, it's really nice to meet you. And you never know, when you're practicing this stuff in front of your cat in the living room, it's unclear how foolish the whole room may think of you are. But I think it's really important sometimes to shake stuff up and to do something sort of ridiculous. I think it sticks in your brain after a conference like this and you think, oh shit, that girl Jen made me do this thing, but all right, fine. We're having the feedback talk, right? And that to me is the ripple effects that can incrementally make all of your teams more efficient, make everybody a little gentler with each other, and hopefully more successful in the long run. Thank you for coming. If you are interested, I actually have a couple random printouts, although you don't need a printout, of a free career planning guide that I produce every Q4. There'll be another one in December. Also, if you're at all interested, our last So Now You're a Manager of the Year will be in San Francisco in November. So if you're interested in attending, come find me. And also, here's just my card if you want to email me your bravery. Thanks. Good luck.